As the activating and suppressing appeals I cited in recent pages suggest, the Russian messaging played effectively to the fears and concerns of decisive voting blocs in a fashion designed to magnify the sense of cultural and economic anxiety that was a key factor driving a Republican vote. Although sometimes more extreme than his, these Kremlin-backed appeals complemented messages advanced by Trump and his campaign. Additionally, as I noted in my discussion of the efforts to mobilize white evangelicals and shift or suppress the Sanders vote, the strategic release of damaging hacked content created an anti-Clinton news frame, with its seeming confirmation not only that the Democratic National Committee, DNC, had disadvantaged the Vermont Independent, but also that some on that organization's staff disparaged Bernie, and that a key Clinton aide was dismissive of evangelicals and Republican Catholics. As I noted earlier, the Russians began their courtship of kindred spirits with benign appeals that signaled that they and their target audiences shared common values. More extreme ones followed. The Albright study of 6 sites describes the progression well by observing that on Facebook, the Russians identified issues of concern for voters through organic posts, sorted voters into groups, and then addressed the cached audience with paid ads. To his list, I would add a final stage. The trolls urged the cached audience to vote on Election Day. 3 complementary factors were at play as well. In the national and social media streams, cascading into key battleground states, the Russians helped create a communication climate more hostile to Clinton and hospitable to Trump than it otherwise would have been. When those who directly received Russian content made it their own by sharing it with their friends, imposter messages were amplified in credible ways. And finally, although, as I noted earlier, the Russian statements contained off-putting misuses of English, their visual content was evocative and powerful. Because it had the potential to alienate the intended audience, let me begin by examining the trolls' sometimes badly broken English. Sophisticated audiences could have been put off by cues that the Russian materials were created by those whose native language was not English. Although the reach and strategic alignment of the Russian-created materials had the potential to influence the outcome of the presidential election, as some of the content I have already quoted suggests, a major factor diminishing their power was their sometimes glaring misuse of the English language, an unsurprising lapse since the trolls reportedly were told to school themselves in the idioms of U.S. politics by watching the Netflix series House of Cards, and were expected, as one told a liberal Russian TV channel, to be a redneck from Kentucky, and then later you had to be some kind of white dude from Minnesota, and then in 15 minutes you need to be from New York, writing something in black slang. Linguistic mismatches matter because speaking like others confirms both a respect for local conventions and a communal bond. So, for instance, in 2003, when Democratic presidential hopeful John F. Kerry ordered a cheesesteak with Swiss cheese, as opposed to Cheese Whiz, with or without onions, his lapse prompted a Philadelphia reporter to observe that the Massachusetts Democrat may as well have asked for cave-aged Appenzeller. Likewise, the Russian troll content contained jarring cues that its authors were raised in a community whose native language was not English. So, for example, odd usages recur in a Miners for Trump event post, which noted the state of Pennsylvania rose owing to multiple enterprises mining coal, producing steel, and creating the need for other jobs. Followed by this sentence fragment, as far as Mr. Trump pursues the goal of creating more jobs and supports the working class. In a post-election analysis, Philadelphia reporter Will Bunch noted that the Russian appeals to join Miners for Trump for an October rally in Philadelphia were written in a kind of Boris Badenoff is moose and squirrel pidgin English that reeked of a close encounter with Google Translate. The trolls also displayed an idiosyncratic preference for punctuating their sentiments by asking, "What the hell?"